Now we start in earnest our session on jewellery. And who better to start talking about the emotion and the energy behind fine jewellery and the major element in seduction than Stephen Webster. He's been a key in moving the image of jewellery from reverence, awe and formality to a bolder, wilder, more exciting way of introducing that magical sparkle. Please welcome Stephen Webster. Glad you've got your coffee. Mine's on the table.
I bought a cup of tea, not coffee, for God's sake. I'm
Welcome.
English. Yeah. I just want to say, actually, last night, thank you for last night. Absolutely brilliant. Congratulations, 25 years. As the owner of a goldfish, I thought it was slightly sort of irreverent to have a sushi bar in an aquarium. I mean, we don't even eat a carrot in front of our goldfish in case he thinks it's one of his own. But brilliant. It's like a sort of a bottomless bar, isn't it? You go, hey, Joe, we're running out of tuna. Yeah, we'll stick you around in the big tank. Plenty in there. Anyway, it was a great party. Thank you very much. Yeah. Actually, before I start, I want to say, because I want to feel that I can bring something to see. And there was that fella yesterday that said he liked airports. And I like bus stops. And I figure that every time I pass a bus stop in Southeast Asia that doesn't have a small luxury boutique in it, I see it as a wasted opportunity. Anyway, there we go. Now, following on from the Cartier presentation, I've basically got my family album up here. Yeah, we spent millions on it. Yeah, it was cheaper than an album, but it's anyway. So I know that your expectations are lowered already just by me being up here. But anyway, there was a bus there. So a few weeks ago, I was asked by London Design Week if I would like my own bus and to create my own bus route. And I mean, in a split second, I'd said yes, and I was already planning my route, and I was very excited about it. And I think, maybe some of you are thinking, guy in the luxury business, been in it all his life, why is he so excited about public transport? But it's part of that kind of emotional bond, which I'm going to be talking about a lot. Emotional bond. Londoners have an emotional bond with a lot of things in their city, and they're very easy to spot because they're mainly painted red. So we've got telephone boxes, post boxes, and of course the biggest, reddest thing is the London bus. And these red things, especially the London bus, come with kind of like, it's an unwritten health warning. Do not tamper for fear of damaging your health or your political career with this bus, because famously our mayor before Boris, he lost his position by tampering with a London bus. So these emotional ties are very, very strong, even to something like public transport. So for me, that bus route was going to be much more than a public way of getting from A to B. It was my emotional journey, and I call it my emotional journey because I'm a jeweller. And jewellers, by nature, make things that get bound in so much emotional tie. It's sort of more than you'd ever find in a dominatrix front parlour. It's unbelievable. It's all about that. It's all ties, emotional ties. So my journey started in 1977 in Hatton Garden, where I was apprentice. And Hatton Garden was like the historical centre of jewellery making in London. Still kind of is, but a little bit smaller now. And it ended up on Mount Street, which is in Mayfair. And I know there's a lot of people here who are very familiar with London. But for those who are not, Mayfair is the blue bit on the Monopoly board, where it's very expensive to buy houses and hotels. So the journey with traffic took 3 hours. And it was no more than 5 miles. And you think, well, that's a bit sad. 36 years that was. But of course, I took a 5 million mile detour. 5 million miles, I did. I've got the air miles to prove it. And and BA keep reminding me. And that's quite extraordinary, because being a jeweller, you don't need very much space. I mean, you can make jewellery in a cupboard. You don't need to travel the world. But somehow jewellery, and I'm sure for a lot of us here, but for me it's jewellery, has taken me all over the world. It's taken me to all four corners of the earth and under it, which is my journey. So the first 10 years I spent trying to be the best craftsman that I could be. I didn't have any ideas of design or anything. I just wanted to be the best craftsman I could be. And then the next 10 years, I still wanted to be the best craftsman I could be, but I had a new passion. I discovered gemstones with names so exotic that I couldn't spell them then, I can't spell them now, but I can make a ring out of them. And then I spent the next 16 years, which brings us up to date, really working out what happens when some other folk, misguided maybe, but they take a liking to what you're doing. And I've spent the last 16 years really about that. So my route, whether it's on a Route Master or not, Route Master's the name of a London bus, by the way, but it's the route from craftsman to brand. We've spoken about that. Well, I haven't, but other people have. This sort of, it's authentic. It's a very authentic route to come from craftsman to brand. But it's also a very slow route, and it can be very frustrating. I mean, it's, you kind of feel that you're being held back all the time just by yourself. But, every now and again you kind of stop and look back and think, oh my God, I've come a long way since the last time I looked back. But it's that, and not buses, is what I'm going to talk about today, actually. So you're probably glad about that. So, just this sort of building this business. Obviously, without the benefit of an advertising campaign or a global marketing. I mean, not many people have that when they first start. We certainly didn't. I mean, it was very hands-on. And it doesn't seem very long ago to me when I would be working till the early hours of the morning on that final piece, that final vital piece. They were always vital. It was always that bit, it was vital. You're there at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd go home, I'd pack a bag, I'd get to the airport, I'd get on a plane, I'd fly someplace, I'd get out the other end, have a shower, maybe, go to someone's shop, set the jewellery up, turn from craftsman to salesperson, and then just talk about myself and my jewellery for as long as it took, and then pack it all away and do it all again. And I kept asking myself, do I really need to touch all my clients? Now, that's a very loaded question, as the people teaching in the front here have already worked out. And we talked about it, within the company. We made a corporate decision, and we said no, unless they spend over 20 grand, and then it's discretionary. So it's sort of no, but yes, because you want it to be yes, you want to spend over 20 grand. So, but that's kind of it. It was touching all your clients, meaning I had to make physical contact with them all. And I guess that there is another way. I don't know it, but there is another way, and that literally was our way, because the jewellery was already feeling like it had a story behind it. It wasn't just jewellery that didn't provoke a question, and I think if it provokes a question, you've really got to tell the story. People want to know. They want to know what is behind this. Why did you make that? And I think there's probably no better way than being that person. So. I was lucky, really, because I didn't just like jewellery and making jewellery, but I quite liked, brushing up and, getting out there and talking to my clients. And I can't say I didn't enjoy it. And in the end, that was how I ended up with 5 million miles. But it was sort of the way that we connected. And I think, some other people have spoken about that. Even with people were talking about e-retail, it's certainly with something like jewellery, I feel it's quite difficult to think you're not in some way going to connect with your client. So I don't think anybody could argue with the fact that there is probably nothing else like jewellery that comes with so much emotional sort of baggage, if you like, so much in there. It defines so many important things in life. I mean, the most important being getting engaged. I think it would take a very, very brave person to ask another person to spend the rest of their life with them and not give them a ring. Now, some people have tried, but they're freaks. I mean, you can imagine, can't you? Darling, will you marry me? And by the way, is that pair of shoes you've been after? Or, darling, will you marry me? To mark the occasion of us starting a home together, is that really nice Dyson? It's just not going to work, is it? So it's got to be a ring. So that's that one. And then, of course, there's all the others. There's the anniversaries, the births, the memories, the deaths, the divorce ring. The divorce ring is the ultimate piece of women's self-purchase, I call it, yeah. So, it's bought with glee, trust me. Excuse me, I've got to have a cup of tea. And then there's all the amulets, all the personal amulets, the religious signs, the zodiac signs. I mean, when I launched my Astro Balls, do you remember that? Yeah, no, you don't. Anyway, I want to say they were the 2 biggest selling things we made, but there was 12. So obviously it was the 12 biggest selling things we made because people connect with them. It's your star sign, and that's really what jewellery's all about. And you want to ask yourself, why is that? Why is it that jewellery is so important? I think it's because it's precious. It's really precious, and it's small, or if you're very, very lucky, it's big. But big or small, it's very precious. And I think it deserves to bear all the hallmarks of craftsmanship. It is the thing. And the thing, like I said, was in the first 10 years, pretty much first 20 years of my life, it's like wanting to make jewellery beautifully because you realise how important it is to people once they see that something's detailed. You haven't got a lot to work with. Even if it is big and you're lucky, it's still quite small. So you've got to kind of detail it. And that's really the craftsmanship is what it's all about. And one of the great things about being a bench-trained jeweller is really this sort of complete understanding that I have with the materials I work with. And, if you think about it, you go to work, and you sit down and you got some gold and maybe some emeralds and maybe some diamonds or something really exotic like a big purple pearl or an imperial topaz. And it's like going to work in a treasure box. It's fantastic. You see, I can only assume that that's a lot more interesting than going down, sitting down, turning on your PC, shuffling your staples, reaching for your paper clips, and all that stuff, Anyway, that's part of the magic of being a jeweller. Now, jewellers very, very quickly develop a respect for the material they work with. And no matter how experienced you are, you keep that respect. And despite this, over the years, I've shattered a few things. I mean, mainly my nerves, but that's due usually to shattering something quite small and quite valuable. Something like an emerald or an opal. These are very valuable things, but, they're more fragile than Lindsay Lohan, some of these things. And you get to work with these things. But what it does, it kind of keeps you focused. It keeps you focused on this sort of respect for the material and the craft. And just, like I say, you kind of... There's these unwritten rules about jewellery and about craftsmanship, and you've got to abide by the rules. But that doesn't mean to say you have to abide by the rules when it comes to creativity. I think I've broken all the rules when it comes to creativity. I mean, some of the things I've done with a diamond and a pearl probably can't be spoken about in polite society, to be quite honest. But you can definitely break the rules when it comes to creativity. You push the boundaries. You've got to push the boundaries. Otherwise, it just all stays the same. But with the craftsmanship, there's something about that. It's like the unwritten rule. You've got to respect the material you work with. Right, so getting back to building the brand, one of the things that I can say for sure when you're building a new luxury brand is it's better to still be alive. And I know that might sound a bit obvious, but there does become a point when that's no longer the case. But when you're building it, it helps to be alive and just to have a pulse, you know. Because I think when I was doing my trunk shows, I said to you I'd get there, get changed, go and do all that thing called a trunk show. And I suppose at first I sort of assumed that, you know, I'd be one and there'd be a designer over here and designer over there. And you very quickly realise that you're not. I mean, you know, you're out there, you're a designer, you know, and you've got your own storytelling to do. So while I'm you know, in somebody else's shop, I didn't have any of my own shops then. So I'm in someone else's shop, be a Neiman Marcus or a Bergdorf, and I'm chatting to someone. I can tell them how, from sort of concept to creation, how I made this thing, you know, I sweated blood over it, I did that. Or maybe that tanzanite, I've been down the mine where that tanzanite came from, and these things are huge, you know, because obviously, you know, for a salesperson, they can only talk about what they've been told, and you know, very, very quickly realised how incredible advantage that was to have been first-hand, you know, sort of the maker. Now, you know, obviously, you get to a point, you know, where we are now, and you know, I have to have a sales team. I mean, I can't be a one-man band my whole time, and I need my team to be what every salesperson is, you know, to enthuse about what you do, and that's just the way it works. But when it comes to a new market, I've noticed they still like to wheel me out. They bring the defibrillators, you know, bang, get him out there, get him talking, you know, and I just kick in for a bit. And I'll take over again at the helm. So because all luxury brands have got someone in there at some point who's not just passionate, but probably obsessed. They become obsessed because you can't make luxury items, things that are so detailed. You can't have things where, you know, a bad stitch or a small paint blemish or something that can only be detected under 10 times magnification, you know, to the person that's the originator, if you like, the founder. These things can, they don't just spoil their day. They can send them spiraling into a very dark place, you know, but that's because of the obsession that comes with it. So today, we have, how many stores? I've got about 12 stores and concessions around the world, and about 200 outlets. And I think we've been sort of fairly uncompromising in our creativity. We've managed to get this far without having to feel that we've had to sort of compromise ourselves too much. And I know that there is a feeling, I think, or maybe it's not a feeling, maybe it makes complete sense, where you get to a point where your brand, where you've got to sort of just back off a bit of the creativity and you've got to sort of rely on something. Maybe you call it more accessible, maybe you call it an iconic product, things that are very easy to recognise. And you know, it's never sat very comfortably with me to feel that I've got to do that. And I just took on a new marketing director. She'd had 10 years at Richemont, and she said to me, you know, I think we need to stop reinventing the wheel and just make something that's a little bit more bland. And I said, over my dead body, which of course would have been a solution, but I wasn't going to lie down that easily. So having established that I am quite stubborn and quite single-minded in the way that I go about my work, I've prepared two market studies, and the first one is it was America. When I started to exhibit in America under my own name, it wasn't that long ago. It was about 14 years ago. I remember because my wife was giving birth to my daughter while I was in Las Vegas at my first show, so she's never let me forget that. Anyway, so 14 years ago, and I went to Vegas, and in Vegas there was 3,000 jewellers exhibiting, and so you very quickly think, okay, the last thing the world needs is more jewellery. But it's what I do, so I've got to stick with it. And on top of that, I think they'd made a planning error, because not only did I have a small space, but it was in a cupboard under the stairs, so it wasn't even visible from most places unless you went round to the cupboard under the stairs. But as it was a combination of my jewellery, which I guess we can say, you know, it certainly stood out on its own, but it was that and my, you know, what some people may say my dubious fashion sense. To mark my debut in America, I'd gone to Savile Row to buy a suit. And I don't know what came over me, but I bought a purple suit. I think you've probably seen me up there, innit? I put it on the other day. It still fits me, 16 years later. Anyway, and I bought a purple suit. And I think you know, that would have been probably perfectly normal for me. And I had no idea it almost caused a revolution amongst the more soberly suited gents of the American jewellery trade. It was great. It was like, have you seen that British guy under the stairs with a purple suit? Anyway, I got a lot of attention. It was the combination of the things. Anyway, that year I won this big award. It was the Couture Editor's Choice Award. And even to this day, I pray it was for my jewellery and not just another fashion faux pas. Yeah. So that was the American one. Now, there's a great thing about established markets like America is there's many platforms for you to, for just opportunities. There's more opportunities, more platforms. There's an enthusiasm from a very, very mature market for something new. You know, I mean, literally, certainly in America, you know, if you've got what they want, it might be a purple suit, I don't know, but they all want it. And they're on it. They want to be the first. They want to be the first store in their city to get it. And, you know, in my first show, I had Neiman's, Bergdorf, Saks, you know, the lot. It was like just unbelievable. And of course, other markets aren't quite like America. They've not quite got that sort of incredible retail sort of network that's a possibility. So the next place that we were going to try was going to be much more challenging. So this was, like I said, it was about 14 years ago. And I already knew that the purple suit wasn't going to work because the market we're talking about was Russia. And the newly wealthy Russian male already had a purple suit. He had a shiny purple suit with gold brocade and a red shirt and a Cuban heel. I mean, man, I was nothing. So I figured this was going to take more covert activity. I needed to get behind the lines. So I met a Russian girl and I married her. And she didn't know at the time, but I was gathering information. I was what they call a sleeper. And after a while, I got the call. Mr. Webster, we want to open store. So we opened store. Yeah, and that was 10 years ago, and we were truly the first independent jeweller of any kind of way, like a creative way, like if you can put us in a category, I don't know, but we were on our own, and it was amazing. It was 10 years. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary out there in February at the British Embassy. How brilliant is that? All the spies, British Embassy, fantastic. And I guess there was something about our, you know, maybe it's my audacity, I don't know, but my edgy design aesthetic, the celebrity that was surrounding our brand by then, because we had a lot of celebrities by then, but whatever it was just what Dr. Zhivago ordered. It was great. So we're still there. I'm very happy to be there. So anyway, as you can tell from my 2 textbook case studies, it appears that we have it sussed, but we don't have it sussed because when it comes to C, I don't even know where to start, to be quite honest, because the Russian wife's already made it very clear there's not room for a sea wife. Her exact words were, I don't even care if it's a seahorse, you're not bringing her back to my stable. So anyway, so I'm open for ideas, bright ideas, creative ideas, please. I'll be outside afterwards and maybe we can work it out together. Because it's got to happen. It will happen in the end. So I just want to conclude with an example of what we do, why we do it, and why I still love it. Now, I always have big stories around my jewellery, and a few years ago, I took Jules Verne, because Jules Verne, I've still got the book I had when I was about 10. It's really beaten up, and it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I just love that book. And I took it as inspiration for a collection, and basically, if it was below the waterline, I could make a brooch out of it. That was our philosophy with Jules Verne. And one of my favourite pieces, a personal favourite, was a crab ring. Are we going to get, here we go, the crab. Now, the crab ring, it's a sort of a cocktail ring, sort of a crab cocktail. Could be a chili crab cocktail. I could localise it. It's called local knowledge. Yeah. So anyway, it was a big hit. Well, no, sorry, it wasn't. It wasn't a big. We sold about 3 in the first year. And actually, I'm just going to go back one bit because I missed an important part. I was so obsessed with this Jules Verne collection, we made a short film called The Girl with the Prawn Earring, which was basically a girl with some gold shrimps in her ears. It was on YouTube for a long time. It's well worth seeing. Anyway, going back to the crab. So the first year we sold 3, and that would probably be about what I'd expect. 3 crabs, you know. And the next year we sold 53. And now, you know what? Even a brand as whacked out as ours, you don't design a crab expecting it to be your biggest selling ring. You do it for a laugh, of course you do. Something else will be your biggest selling ring. This thing, for about 7 years, was our biggest selling ring. It was unreal. There was it didn't matter if it was LA or Moscow or Harrods, everyone wanted it. So on this crustacean high, I went one step further and I designed the lobster ring, which is coming up. There we go. And genius. Because I thought, you know what, crab's nice, but everyone loves lobster. Thank you. That's me done. You want to ask me questions?
What can I say? Perfect. There are no questions, but I have a suggestion. You could bring out the same range and call it 20,000 Leagues Under Singapore. How's that?
Sounds good. You're going to be a joint venture.